Okay, here ends Acoustics 514. And as I mentioned earlier, this is the last time I'll be teaching a course for the graduate program in acoustics. I started with the program in 1996, 25 years ago. I've been teaching ACS 514 for 20 years, since 2001. A little hard to picture that. But it does reinforce the fact that, yes, I am an old coot. Uh, you've probably seen plenty of indications of that, and I'm sure there will be plenty to come. But I wanted to reflect a little bit on this process. None of this is going to be on the quiz, by the way. You already know that. So if you really want to just get up and make yourself a cup of coffee, that's okay too. But I do want to reflect a little bit. Professor Russell and Professor Garrett, who many of you don't know, and I have had a number of conversations about teaching. And it made me think about my own background. I had a phenomenal education that was also terrible. If you look at current trends in pedagogy, that is, techniques for teaching, they all tell you not to do what my good teachers did. Now, I'm not claiming that this new technique-oriented teaching is bad. That's not the point here. But I had a phenomenal education, and it wasn't so dependent on technique. And why was that? When I think about it, when I think about these courses that have made an impact on me, I can still see one of my undergraduate E&M instructors teaching. It was one of the best courses I had as an undergrad. What were the characteristics of these people? Really two big ones. Passion, and its accompanying enthusiasm, but also skill, knowledge, understanding what's happening. Sounds pretty obvious, right? Well, the idea of skill and knowledge of what you're teaching is something I don't think anybody would dispute. But this other aspect is definitely a part of what these instructors that made a big impact on me had. And that was passion. They were passionate about what they did. They got into what they did. They dug deep into what they were trying to communicate, and they communicated it well. So this was great. And those are the two characteristics that I picked out as the keys: passion and skill. And I can still see these folks. An interesting aspect of this, as I had talked about with several other professors, in graduate school, I never had an instructor that did demos. I love to do demos, and I apologize for the folks who have taken my classes during COVID times, because you didn't get that experience of the live demo. I gave you some results, some videos, some slides. Hopefully you got the idea of some of these things, but I really enjoy doing them, and people say they really get a lot out of them. But interestingly enough, I never had a professor give a demo in a graduate class that I took. So it also means that we can change. We can evolve. It's easier to do demos now than it was 20 years ago. Well, some anyway. So there is that. But that's my thoughts about the teachers that I had. And when I think about what I would like to communicate, sure, I'd like to communicate some skills. I would like to be able to do that. But more than that, I would like to try to push this infection out. It's not COVID, but I want you to be infected with the idea that there is really cool stuff that you can get your mind around if you embrace the tools. If your ambition, be honest, why are you in this class? Don't tell me here, but be honest. Why are you taking this class? Are you taking it because you want to get a master's degree or a PhD degree and it will open some doors for you? Hey, that's great. That's great. If you're doing it because you have to, your employer says you have to take a certain amount of classes a year, okay, that's fine too. I don't have a problem with that. If you think it's going to look good on your resume or get a promotion, that's all fine and good too. I understand those things. But don't forget that along the way, you might actually learn something. You might actually get some skills, develop some skills. And that's, I think you should try and make this transition from maybe your end goal is a PhD or your end goal is a master's degree. But wow, don't pass up the opportunity to understand things on a deeper level. Don't just look for equations to plug numbers into. Find out what that equation is telling you. Play around with it. The tools you have, play around with those tools. These are great opportunities, I think, and I would love to infect you with this desire to dig deeper into things. If I could do that, that'd be great. Be open to new things. Open to new teaching techniques. I've got my own opinions about things that work and things that don't work, and I think the human in the teacher-student interaction is more important than anything else. But there are other things that can help. There are other things that can facilitate. So be open to things. It's a couple cool stories here. I'm going to tell you about Whistler's Bridge. You may know about Whistler's mother. There's a far more well-known piece of art from James Whistler. But he also did a drawing of a bridge. He went to, believe it or not, the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. He didn't last very long there, and you'll get an idea why he didn't last very long there from this story. But he had an introductory course in engineering, and they were talking about bridges. So the instructor said, your assignment for tonight is to draw a bridge and bring your drawing into class, and we'll talk about the drawings. So next day, everybody brings in their drawing, and Whistler has predictably made this beautiful stone arch bridge across a babbling brook with grassy verge on either side and a little road coming in from one side, going over the bridge and out the other side. And two kids, a boy and a girl, sitting on the bridge with fishing poles, dipping in the water. Well, the instructor is outraged. The instructor says, we're talking about bridges. Get those kids off the bridge. So he goes back, changes the drawing, takes the kids off the bridge, and seats them on the bank of the river. They're sitting together, still have the fishing poles there. Brings it in. The instructor says, no. Get the kids out of the picture. They don't belong there. So he goes back and he brings in his third and final attempt, which was this beautiful stone arch bridge, babbling brook, grassy verge, and two tombstones on the banks. Well, he eventually got tossed out of the program. Didn't sound like he was really into this super high discipline environment anyway. He might have been tossed anyway. But what's the point of this? The point is restricting your vision too much is a bad thing. What he did by putting the kids on the bridge was suggest that there are other uses for bridges than just carts across bridges, horses across bridges. It's not just a route to somewhere. It could be something else. There could be some underlying thing that you haven't thought about. And bringing this idea in opens your mind up, and you think, oh, what else could people do on bridges? Golden Gate Bridge, an anniversary of the Golden Gate Bridge. I forget which anniversary this was. They stopped the traffic. They didn't allow any car traffic across the bridge. And this was a time for anybody who wanted to walk across the bridge. It turned out to be wildly popular. Huge numbers of people crowded onto the bridge, and they actually loaded the bridge considerably higher than the design load it was built for. They built it thinking that the worst case would be one lane packed with cars and trucks because there might have been an accident somewhere that clogged up the traffic there. But it turned out when you jammed the bridge full of pedestrians, the load was considerably higher than that. And some of the curvature of the bridge flattened out. If the bridge had failed under that condition, it would have been a massive disaster. Fortunately, it didn't. Fortunately, there was enough of a safety factor in the bridge, but the designers never contemplated that loading for the bridge. Even when they opened it to walkway, when they stopped traffic and allowed, nobody did the calculation of how much loading there could be. I think they just didn't realize how popular it was going to be. But here was a case. Understanding what's going on. Be skeptical too. Be skeptical. I think there are three phases of perception. First phase, the youngest phase, you accept everything. Teacher presents material, you accept it, give it back on quizzes. That's a pretty successful strategy. Next phase, be critical of other people. And that's something we unfortunately teach a little too much here. You know, I say, oh, don't do it that way. That's not the right way to do it. Here's the right way to do it. And you get the idea that sophistication means you're critical, which is true, but you're critical of other people. You're critical of other approaches. Your approach is the right approach to use. The third phase is where you want to be, and that's critical of yourself. Not in the crazy sense of, oh gosh, I can't do anything. I don't want to do anything. I might make a mistake. No, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is thinking about something and then automatically saying, how can I test this? How can I see if this is right? How can I see if what I'm doing is right? And that's this great philosophy. It's a transformational philosophy, because once you get into this mindset of checking things, questioning things, it makes your product better. It opens up doors. The Mars Climate Observer mission, disastrous mission. A contractor wrote the algorithm for a particular control mechanism in the spacecraft using English units. NASA implemented the algorithm using metric units. And it turned out that the trajectory was off. It wasn't off by a lot, but it was off by plenty. And when they got to the point of the last course correction burn, they were projecting based on false data, and it looked good, so they didn't change the trajectory at all. And it turns out, as far as anybody knows, the spacecraft entered the atmosphere on Mars way too low and either burned up or exploded because of excess heat. The problem is the actual failure happened on the far side of the planet, so there wasn't any telemetry going on. But this is a case. Test it. Does it work? Did you do it right? Test it. And one of the comments of it was either a NASA administrator or a Jet Propulsion Lab, I think it was a Jet Propulsion Lab person, said, we don't expect humans to be error-free. but we thought we had enough tests to catch the errors. And it turns out that they didn't. I mean, this is a wildly successful skill as well. Um, and I think the last thing I would say is be inspired. Be inspired. Awe and wonder are a part of this field that we're in. I think, I just so many aspects of it have this tremendous ability to kind of open your eyes to different ways of looking at things. Uh, this idea that very low frequency acoustics can propagate all the way around the world, and if it's strong enough in the beginning, maybe more than once. This is amazing to me. Sound underwater, similar kind of thing. Huge propagation distances possible, but also the connection with tools. This idea that we can use complex variables and integration to describe a physical circumstance, to me always gives me a little bit of more inspiration. This connection between nature, how nature is really functioning, and our tools to understand what's going on. It's really something. To me, there's no mystery at all that folks who like music and are skilled in the musical arts like acoustics. I think there is a philosophical connection there. I'm not a good one to evaluate because I have no musical skill. The only instrument I play with any competence at all is the tuning fork. I can usually get a pretty nice clean tone out of a tuning fork, but that's about it. Why don't we have the same level of connection with art, though? Because a lot of the things that we do are very visual, and you can make them visual. A lot of people say, "Oh, I'm a visual learner." Yeah, I'm a visual learner too. And what does that mean? That puts the impetus on me to develop those skills, to develop sketching and visualization and drawing pictures and all that sort of thing. So there's an awful lot of motivation here. But yeah, I would kind of end on this inspiration. Be inspired. Be inspired by what you're doing, and that'll push you on to higher heights. I thank you immensely for the contribution that you make to class. I wish I could thank every student I've had right now for all of that accumulated benefit. But you are the folks that I'm telling that to, and I thank you very much for that participation. Certainly, it will continue. I'm really looking forward to meeting as many of you face to face as possible, because I will be around still for another year or two. I just won't be teaching for that time. So thank you very much. I love you guys. It's been a great semester, and take care. Let me know how things are going. Okay, that's it. Thank you. Thank you very much.